Hello, I'm Willie from the Ozarks, and we are ready for our June the 5th lesson, 2022, in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students, from the original edition, lesson 156. I walk with God. I walk with God in perfect holiness. I walk with God in perfect holiness. Remember yesterday he told us we walk to God. In yesterday's lesson, I stepped back and let him lead the way. For I would walk along the road to him. Well, he said in paragraph 12, we walk to God. Pause and reflect on this, he told us yesterday. Pause and reflect on this. So today he has a whole lesson devoted to the idea. I walk with God in perfect holiness. Today's idea but states the simple truth that makes the thought of sin impossible. It promises there is no cause for guilt, and being causeless, it does not exist. It follows surely from the basic thought so often mentioned in the text, ideas leave not their source. If this be true, how can you be apart from God? How could you walk the world alone and separate from your source? We are not inconsistent in the thoughts that we present in our curriculum. Truth must be true throughout if it be true. It cannot contradict itself nor be in parts uncertain and in others sure. You cannot walk the world apart from God because you cannot be without him. You cannot walk the world apart from God because you cannot be without him. You could even say it this way. You cannot walk the world apart from God because you cannot be apart from God. He is what your life is. Where you are, he is. There is one life. That life you share with him. Nothing can be apart from him and live. Life is God. Life is being part of the God matrix. part of God everywhere. Yet where he is, there must holiness be as well as life. Where he is, where God is, there must holiness as well as life. Let's get that right. Yet where he is, where God is, there must be holiness as well as life. The holiness of God goes with you wherever you go, just like the holiness of God goes with him wherever he goes. We can't be separate from God. So he's everywhere, and here we're with him in his holiness. No attribute of his remains unshared by everything that lives. No attribute of his holiness in this example, remains unshared by everything that lives. What lives is holy as himself, because what shares his life is part of holiness and could no more be sinful than the sun could choose to be of ice, the sea elect to be apart from water, or the grass to grow with roots suspended in the air. There is a light in you which cannot die, whose presence is so holy that the world is sanctified because of you. All things that live bring gifts to you. All things that live bring gifts to you, and offer them in gratitude and gladness at your feet. Wow, that's what we want to. We want to get to that place where we can see that everyone has a gift from God to us. Everyone, no exceptions here. Remember, that's kind of one of the most important considerations, particularly in the beginning of the workbook. He said, just no exceptions. I mean, and even though it won't be emphasized anymore, it's just understood that we don't make exceptions. So there is a light in you which cannot die, whose presence is so holy that the world is sanctified because of you. All things that live bring gifts to you. All things that live bring gifts to you, and offer them in gratitude and gladness at your feet. My only question is, are you watching for them? Are you looking for them? Are you believing that they're going to come to you in every exchange with everyone? Look for the gifts of God. That's what I'm trying to encourage you to do. It's what he's trying to encourage you to do. So he says, there is a light in you which cannot die, whose presence is so holy that the world is sanctified because of you. All things that live bring gifts to you. and offer them in gratitude and gladness at your feet. The scent of flowers is their gift to you. Isn't that a sweet way to look at life? The scent of flowers is their gift to you. The waves bow down before you, and the trees extend their arms to shield you from the heat, and lay their leaves before you on the ground, that you may walk in softness, while the wind sinks to a whisper round your holy head. Wow, the whole creation in honor of the holiness that we hold of God. The light in you is what the universe longs to behold. The light in you is what the universe longs to behold. All living things are still before you, for they recognize who walks with you, God. The light you carry is their own, and thus they see in their holiness, saluting you as Savior and as God. Again, the light you carry is their own, and thus they see in you their holiness, saluting you as Savior and as God. Accept their reverence. Wow, accept their reverence, for it is due to holiness itself, which walks with you, transforming in its gentle light all things into its likeness and its purity. We're all in this together. This is the way salvation works. As you step back, the light in you steps forward and encompasses the world. It heralds not the end of sin and punishment and death. In lightness and in laughter it is gone. The world is gone with lightness and with laughter. In lightness and in laughter is it gone, because its quaint absurdity is seen. It is a foolish thought, a silly dream, not frightening, ridiculous perhaps. But who would waste an instant in approach to God Himself for such a senseless whim? Yet you have wasted many, many years on just this foolish thought. Oh my, we've done this. Yet you have wasted many, many years on just this foolish thought. The past is gone with all its fantasies. The past is gone with all its fantasies. They keep you bound no longer. The approach to God is near, and in the little interval of doubt which still remains, you may perhaps lose sight of your companion and mistake him for the senseless ancient dream that now is past. Who walks with me? That's how you get reestablished into your forgetfulness. Who? Just keep asking yourself, who walks with me? This question should be asked 1,000 times a day, till certainty has ended doubting and established peace. Wow. Who walks with me? This question should be asked 1,000 times a day, till certainty has ended doubting and established peace. Today, let doubting cease. God speaks for you in answering your question with these words. Who walks with me? Here's the answer. I walk with God in perfect holiness. I walk with God in perfect holiness. I light the world. I light my mind and all the minds which God created, one with me. I walk with God in perfect holiness. I light the world. I light my mind and all the minds which God created, one with me. All right, what a beautiful lesson. Okay, we walk with God. Ask yourself that over and over till it ends doubting and establishes peace. Okay, let's look at our text reading, and we're ready for the fourth obstacle, the fear of God. Okay, so we've got that's in chapter 19, Beyond the Body, and this is in section 5 and subsection D, the fourth obstacle, the fear of God. And you remember the other ones? The first obstacle was the obstacles to peace. The first obstacle was the desire to get rid of it. The second obstacle, how does he say it, was the belief the body is valuable for what it offers. The third obstacle is the attraction of death. Remember he said in that the fear of death is actually its attraction. Wow. So and now today, the fourth obstacle, the fear of God. And what we read yesterday, that last little phrase, he said to tell yourself when anything seems to you to be a source of fear, remember the holy presence of the one given to you to be the source of judgment. Give it to him to judge for you and say, take this from me and look upon it, judging it for me. Let me not see it as a sign of sin and death, nor use it for destruction. Teach me how not to make of it an obstacle to peace, but let you use it for me to facilitate its coming. Wow, isn't that beautiful? Okay, so the fourth obstacle, the fear of God. And go ahead, and if you'd like to follow along in your own text, I'll give you a minute to get there. I want to read to you about in a Baker's Creek catalog. This is, okay, I said a Baker Creek catalog. I always try to grow a little cayenne pepper. Such good medicinal values for people have used it for years well, for just a lot of things. I'm thinking that it helps to I've heard that it helps to stop blood flow and to heal. You'd think it'd be. I've heard it helps with like different stomach problems. You'd think it'd do just the opposite, and some people it may. So you got to treat these medicines with respect and ask God to show you how to use them for yourself. Cayenne long thin, slender long peppers. These are cayenne long thin. This is a slender long peppers, turn bright red and are very hot. The 2-foot plants are vigorous and quite productive. Very popular for drying and using as a spice, also used medicinally. This heirloom has been popular for many years. So that's your cayenne long thin. Okay, let's take a look now in our text reading. The fourth obstacle, the fear of God. How are we looking on? Okay, the fourth obstacle, the fear of God. What would you see without the fear of death? What would you feel and think if death held no attraction for you? Very simply, you would remember your Father. Oh my, let's listen to that again. Let's make sure we get this. The fourth obstacle, the fear of God. What would you see without the fear of death? What would you see without the fear of death? Okay. What would you feel and think if death held no attraction for you? So he's saying the fear of death, remember he told us yesterday, the fear of death is actually its attraction. And he said, what would you feel and think if death held no attraction for you? Very simply, you would remember your Father. So that's what's clouding our remembrance of our Creator, our Father. The Creator of life, the source of everything that lives, the Father of the universe and the universe of universes, and of everything that lies even beyond them, would you remember? Wow. And as this memory rises in your mind, peace must still surmount a final obstacle, after which is salvation completed and the Son of God entirely restored to sanity. For here your world does end. Wow, okay. So there's still, after you've reached a place where there's no fear of death, we still got one more fear we got to surmount. And he calls it, well, let's just read. He hadn't said it yet, but from the title we see the fourth obstacle, the fear of God. Well, you might object, well, I'm not afraid of God. I love God. Well, let's look at it at the level he's trying to communicate it, as if there's something for us to learn. Let's not be too convinced that we know what someone's trying to tell us until we've accessed their level of consciousness about the subject that's being expressed. The fourth obstacle to be surmounted hangs like a heavy veil before the face of Christ. Yet as his face rises beyond it, shining with joy because he is in his Father's love, peace will lightly brush the veil aside and run to meet him and to join with him at last. The fourth obstacle, read again, the fourth obstacle to be surmounted hangs like a heavy veil before the face of Christ. A heavy veil before the face of Christ is how this hangs. Yet as his face rises beyond it, Christ's face. In other words, you use the vision of Christ, which is the forgiven world, the atonement. And yet as his face rises beyond it, shining with joy because he is in his Father's love, peace will lightly brush the veil aside and run to meet him and to join with him at last. For this dark veil, which seems to make the face of Christ himself like a leper's, and the bright rays of his Father's love, which light his face with glory, appear as streams of blood, fades in the amazing light beyond it when the fear of death is gone. Whew. This is the darkest veil upheld by the belief in death and protected by its attraction. The dedication to death and to its sovereignty is but the solemn vow, the promise made in secret to the ego never to lift this veil, not to approach it, nor even to suspect that it is there. This is the secret bargain made with the ego to keep what lies beyond the veil forever blotted out and unremembered. Here is your promise never to allow union to call you out of separation. The great amnesia in which the memory of God seems quite forgotten, the cleavage of yourself from you, the fear of God, the final step in your dissociation. See how the belief in death would seem to save you? For if this is gone, what can you fear but life? It is the attraction of death that makes life seem to be ugly, cruel, and tyrannical. You are not more afraid of death than of the ego. These are your chosen friends. For in your secret alliance with them, you have agreed never to let the fear of God be lifted, so you can look upon the face of Christ and join him in his Father. Paragraph 94. Every obstacle that peace must flow across is surmounted in just the same way. Okay, now he's going to tell us how to get beyond these obstacles. All four of them. Every obstacle that peace must flow across is surmounted in just the same way. The fear that raised it yields to the love beneath. The fear that raised it yields to the love beneath. And so the fear is gone. And so it is with this. The desire to get rid of peace and drive the Holy Spirit from you fades in the presence of the quiet recognition that you love him. The exaltation of the body is given up in favor of the spirit, which you love as you could never love the body, and the appeal of death is lost forever as love's attraction stirs and calls to you. From beyond each of the obstacles to love, love itself has called, and each has been surmounted by the power of the attraction of what lies beyond. Your wanting fear seemed to be holding them in place, yet when you heard the voice of love beyond them, you answered and they disappeared. I wanted to point out, look how he connects, they're both equal in love and peace. He says, and as the appeal of death is lost forever, as love's attraction stirs and calls to you from beyond each of the obstacles to love. Okay, he was talking about the obstacles to peace, but what's the solution? Love. And then we'll return to our peace. So from beyond each of the obstacles to love, love itself has called, and each has been surmounted by the power of the attraction of what lies beyond. Your wanting fear seemed to be holding them in place. Yet when you heard the voice of love beyond them, beyond the fears, you answered and they disappeared. The fears disappeared. And now you stand in terror before what you swore never to look upon. Your eyes look down, remembering your promise to your, in quotes, friends, the, in quotes, loveliness of sin, the delicate appeal of guilt, the, in quotes, holy waxen image of death, and the fear of vengeance of the ego you swore in blood not to desert, all rise and bid you not to raise your eyes, for you realize that if you look on this and let the veil be lifted, they will be gone forever. All of your, in quotes, friends, your, in quotes, protections, and your, in quotes, home will vanish. Nothing that you remember now will you remember. It seems to you the world will utterly abandon you as you but raise your eyes. Yet all that will occur is you will leave the world forever. This is the reestablishment of your will. Look upon it open-eyed, and you will never more believe that you are at the mercy of things beyond you, forces you cannot control, and thoughts that come to you against your will. It is your will to look on this. No mad desire, no trivial impulse to forget again, no stab of fear, nor the cold sweat of seeming death can stand against your will. For what attracts you from beyond the veil is also deep within you, unseparated from it and completely one. You love being, one with God, one with love. All right, let us take one last remembrance of our lesson today. I walk with God in perfect holiness. I light the world. I light my mind and all the minds which God created one with me. Ask yourself that question today. Who walks with me? Who walks with me? This question should be asked 1,000 times a day till certainty has ended doubting and established peace. Today let doubting cease. God speaks for you in answering your question with these words. I walk with God in perfect holiness. I light the world. I light my mind and all the minds which God created one with me. Thank you for sharing this journey on this world with me and on the other world. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me to our Father's home. And I walk with God in perfect holiness. I light the world, I light my mind, and all the minds which God created one with me.